Golden State Warriors tricked the NBA. As you all know, the Golden State Warriors made a huge signing acquiring Dario Saric. Now, NBA media has considered this to be one of the biggest steals of this NBA offseason, and in today's video, we're going to be going through 5 reasons how this affects the NBA, but how this also helps the Golden State Warriors win another NBA championship next season. So make sure to like this video, and guys, 92% of you are still not subscribed to the channel, so it'd mean the world if you can subscribe to the channel, hit that red button down below. The first is that the Golden State Warriors have found their scoring big man in Dario Saric. Now, I think this is so important because if we look at the Golden State Warriors or the current roster right now, you see that Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, and also other bigs such as JaMychal Green are great bigs, do not get me wrong, but they aren't really a pure scorer where they can score from outside as well. And I think this is what Dario Saric really does bring to this team. I think he's a fantastic scorer and he has shown it time and time again. Now, if you don't know, Dario Saric in the most recent season actually played with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he played 20 games. He also played with the Phoenix Suns during that season, but all up, his average for that season was 6.4, which I think is fantastic, even though he was only averaging around 13 minutes of game time. So that is really good to see. To put that in perspective, if you have Kevon Looney and also Draymond Green, who are averaging a total of 30 plus minutes, we're only averaging 7.5 points. So Dario Saric in literally half the time was able to average almost the same amount of scoring, and that is why Saric can be a great scorer if he's given the right amount of minutes. His effective field goal percentage was also 54%, which I think is fantastic, and I really do believe when it comes to Saric's scoring, it's definitely going to provide something off the bench that Draymond and Kevon Looney don't provide in that starting 5 unit. And don't get me wrong, Kevon Looney has had some pretty good games, scoring 20 plus points, and also Draymond Green. However, on a consistent basis, they aren't really the main scorers, and this is where Dario Saric really comes into the picture. Saric is also great because he does stand at 6'10", 225 pounds, and he's only 25 years of age, so he's still a very young player and still has a lot of years left in this NBA league. Now, when it comes to Saric, what I really think he does really well is definitely his scoring, not only just inside and outside, but also his post-up game is very strong. I think Saric has a great post-up game. It reminds me a bit of like a Pau Gasol, but obviously Pau Gasol was an all-star and all these different things, but he has a great left-right hook, which I think is fantastic, and he provides simple scoring rather than flashy scoring, and he gets the job done. So Saric as a whole, I think, will provide a lot for this team when it comes to scoring, especially off the bench. If we look at the current bench right now that Chris Paul is in it, I can definitely see a great pick and roll action happening between Saric and Paul, and I think it is going to be a recipe for success. Now, if we look at the Golden State Warriors last season, we see that they were averaging 47 2-point attempts per game, which ranked them 28th out of all 30 NBA teams. So it's safe to say that the Golden State Warriors, yes, they do have great 3-point scoring, but they heavily relied on the 3 and didn't have too much inside presence. And this is something that Dario Saric can definitely provide when it just comes to scoring all around. I think it is fantastic to see that he has a great post-up game, which can definitely play benefit to the Warriors and what they are trying to achieve, especially for this next upcoming season where they are trying to win another NBA championship. The second is that Dario Saric provides great rebounding for the Golden State Warriors team. And I think this is something that is so important, but as you all know, Golden State Warriors weren't really the best rebounding team, especially in the most current season. If we look at their rebounding total, they actually ranked 15th when it came to rebounds allowed, and they were allowing quite a lot of rebounds. And to put it even into more perspective, they actually ranked 20th in offensive rebounds allowed, so they were really poor at actually, grabbing offensive rebounds in that sense, and I do believe it is something that the Golden State Warriors have definitely lacked in this most current season. When they did lose Otto Porter Jr., and they also did lose Gary Payton II for a little bit now, but now he's back, and also other players like JTA, you definitely saw a huge decrease in their rebounding, and I think Dario Saric can definitely provide that rebounding back. Now, Saric, obviously, he did only average 12-13 minutes per game. However, in those averages, he was actually able to average in the most current season 3.6 rebounds. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but if you calculate it for per 36 minutes, if he did play a proper 30 plus minute game or even 25 plus, he would actually be projected to average around 9.8 rebounds, which is pretty much, a 10 rebounds in that sense. So he is a fantastic rebounder. I think what he does well is due to the fact that he does stand at 6'10", which is a really good height, especially with teams running a lot of small ball. He also weighs 225 pounds and has great strength around the ring in order to box out and get those boards. So I think Saric will actually provide a lot for this team. The fact that he's 6'10" actually also does make him the tallest player in this Warriors roster that get, a majority of the minutes. One of the biggest players on this team is Kevon Looney, and Kevon Looney only stands at 6'9". So Dario Saric is an inch taller, and I think he can definitely provide a lot due to the fact that if we look at the last playoff series that they actually had against the Los Angeles Lakers, Kevon Looney really did struggle, especially when he was off the floor and the Golden State Warriors started to run small ball against players like Anthony Davis and LeBron James. It was just too much to handle, and on top of that, Kevon Looney can't have the burden on grabbing all the rebounds himself. Like I mentioned before, Stephen Curry actually ranked third in most rebounds, and he was pretty much tied with Draymond Green at around 6.7 rebounds per game. And if Stephen Curry, no offense to Curry himself, if he's averaging in the top 3 of your rebounds for your team, then you definitely need more rebounders on your team. So I definitely think getting someone like Saric of his caliber and of his height can definitely provide and also ease up Looney when it comes to his usage rate on the boards and really free up Looney to do other stuff on the floor, you know, such as block shots, play great defense, or even score inside. So I think Saric definitely not only just provides a lot for this team, but it also eases up the usage rate for a lot of these players where they can also focus on other things, and that's what Saric can really bring to this team to help push them even further. The third is that Dario Saric's cheap contract allows the Warriors to sign one more big player. Now I think this is something that definitely must be known, but when it comes to Dario Saric, he did sign a 1-year $2 million veteran minimum contract. Now it is a lot of money, but it does leave Golden State Warriors a bit of a gap to be able to get one more big player, someone that could honestly fill a great role player role. Another thing with this contract as well is that Dario Saric only did sign for 1 year, and as you all know, next season a lot of the big players in Warriors are actually going to have their contract expire. Chris Paul's contract will expire, Klay Thompson, and also now Dario Saric and a couple of others. So because of that, they actually are freeing themselves up for cap space next offseason if there is a superstar that they are willing to get. Now with Warriors fans knowing that the Golden State Warriors can sign one more big player, a name that has been circled around due to the fact that they want him back in a Warriors uniform is Kelly Oubre Jr. Now the Warriors would actually have to pay a bit of luxury salary cap tax in order to get someone like Kelly Oubre Jr., but it is still very possible. I think Oubre would be a fantastic addition to this Warriors team due to the fact that he has played with the Warriors before and did a fantastic job during his time here. He is playing at 6'7", 203 pounds, and he also averaged last season 20.3 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 1.1 assists. So he did a fantastic job all year around, where he was also averaging 32% from the 3-point line and also averaged an effective field goal percentage of 49%. So I think all year, Kelly Oubre Jr. did definitely show he still has it, even at the age of 27. So he's still a very young player, and I think that's why he would be a perfect fit for what the Warriors are trying to do, especially when players like Steph, Klay, or Draymond continue to get older. He can definitely be a young core player and can play very well off the bench, I think, with Chris Paul, you know, Gary Payton II, and now even Dario Saric. So it would be a recipe for success to add someone like Oubre to that second unit, and Oubre has been willing to come back to the Warriors even for a minimum type contract. So whether they will be able to get him, I think it's great that Dario Saric was able to accept on a very cheap contract offer, which he was willing to accept due to the fact that he wanted more people to come on board or maybe get another star that can help this Warriors team win. It does seem that Saric does want to win a championship ring, and I do believe that he has a great opportunity to do that playing for this Golden State Warriors roster, especially with Stephen Curry leading the way. The fourth is now Dario Saric is able to space out the floor for the Golden State Warriors team. Now as you all know, like I mentioned before, Draymond Green and Kevon Looney are the main bigs for this Warriors team, and even if you want to add Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga all into that mix as well, as they play power forward and center during some small ball times. Now when it comes to these bigs, what you have noticed about all of them is none of them are great 3-point shooters, probably besides Wiggins, but even if Wiggins is on, you still need a center out there, and it's usually Draymond and also Kevon Looney. Kuminga is somewhat getting there, a better shooter, which I think is fantastic, but they need someone that can really space out the floor and have really a lot of defenders respect it, and Dario Saric can definitely be that person. If we look at Saric last season, he was able to average a 3-point percentage of 40%, guys, at a center of 6'10". So this is honestly fantastic to see, but the greatest thing about this as well is that his highly efficient scoring from the 3 also came with averaging 2.5 3-point attempts per game. So you definitely have to respect it, and even with a low amount of volume such as that, especially compared to today's league where you have some guards taking 10, 11 3-points per game, he's shooting them at a very efficient rate. And this is something that will help space out the floor for other players, not just, you know, Saric, and help him benefit himself. If we look at the roster, guys, and we look at the starting 5 and how they did during the playoffs, one of the biggest concerns that they did have is that Draymond couldn't really score from the outside, and that's why he had a lot of teams sagging off of him. He also had Kevon Looney, who couldn't shoot outside, which would clog up the paint, and Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and even Wiggins were struggling to get to the ring, especially due to the fact that Kevon Looney was probably planted in there, or also even Draymond Green. And because of those reasons, they definitely need someone that can space out the floor as a big man as well. They have great shooters such as Klay, Steph, now even add Chris Paul to the mix, and Gary Payton II has a solid three-point shot as well. But when it comes to spacing out the floor for the big men, I think Dario Saric really does provide that. If you now look at a lineup where Saric is running that power forward or center position, now you can run kind of a 4 out and have one player inside, whether that's Draymond, Kevon Looney, or even Jermichael Green. But either way, spacing out the floor is so important, especially in today's NBA, and three-point shooting has definitely changed that for the better. The fifth is that Chris Paul has experience playing already with Dario Saric. Now, as you all know, Saric played for the Phoenix Suns, and during his time in the Phoenix Suns, he was able to play with Chris Paul, and now they've both reunited back in Golden State Warriors uniform. And I think this is honestly going to be a fantastic sight to see. They already know how to play with each other. Chris Paul already knows his strengths and weaknesses, and they probably will be running a lot of game together due to the fact that they may be the second unit. And because of that, Chris Paul could run a sick pick and roll with Dario Saric and definitely get the job done. I think it's going to be an exciting sight to see. You have the starting five with Steph Curry, Draymond, Kevon Looney, and then if you have Chris Paul and Dario Saric coming off the bench running a great pick and roll action, I honestly do think no team can stop this Warriors roster. They have enough scorers now in order to get it done, and I think that is something that is so important, especially in today's NBA, where scoring is definitely the #1 factor while also playing fast pace. Warriors is one of the fastest teams in the league, and now that they have added so many great scorers in Chris Paul, now Dario Saric, and also others,